Welcome to the deep dive. So today we're digging into a set of sources you send over, all focused on one specific day, June 6th, 2025. We're looking at what was going on in the crypto world then, according to these reports.
Exactly. We've got quite a mix here. Market stuff, new coin listings, some partnerships, and even, well, some broader impacts reported.
Right. And our goal is basically to sift through this material, pull out the key insights, the really fascinating details, and help you get up to speed quickly based on what these sources are saying.
Consider it your fast track to understanding this snapshot of that specific day in crypto.
And honestly, some of the things in here are, well, they're pretty unexpected. Speaking of which, let's just jump right in with the headline from the sources that probably made everyone do a double take.
I mean, the Fartcoin news.
Yeah, the news about Fartcoin and Subsquid hitting the Coinbase roadmap.
Yeah, it's right there in the source material. Fartcoin, that's Fartcoin, and SQD, both reportedly added to Coinbase's official listing roadmap.
Okay, just let's pause there. A token named Fartcoin on the roadmap for Coinbase. I mean, what does that detail alone tell you about how diverse, maybe even how wild this space can be?
Well, it definitely highlights the open nature of it all, sometimes chaotic, where even projects with, let's say, unconventional names can apparently get noticed by major players.
Right.
And the source also mentioned something interesting. This news apparently led to a price surge for those tokens.
Mm-hmm.
It mentions ARB, DeFi, BTC contextually, but ties the surge specifically to Fartcoin and SQD hitting the roadmap.
A price surge just because it's on the roadmap, not even actually listed for trading yet.
Yeah.
That really drives home how much the market, according to these reports, values just the potential for visibility and liquidity from a big exchange like Coinbase.
It's that announcement effect, plain and simple. The possibility is often enough to get things moving, sometimes significantly. It suggests high sensitivity to, well, potential future access for investors.
Okay, moving on through the material you provided, we've got a report here about Circle, the company behind USDC.
Right, their stock, CRCL. This source talks about its debut.
And it highlights a really, an eye-popping number. An initial jump of over 168% on the first day. I mean, that sounds incredible, right?
It does. Taken alone, it paints a picture of a, hugely successful launch bridging TradFi and crypto.
Yeah.
But the source immediately adds a twist.
Right.
It includes a counterpoint from an analyst who specifically recommended not buying the stock, despite that massive pop.
Okay. So that's where it gets really interesting, isn't it? You have this huge initial excitement, massive gain, but then analysis saying, hold on, maybe don't buy.
Exactly.
Why would the source pair those? What does that tell you, the listener, to think about beyond just the big percentage?
Well, it's a crucial reminder from the source material, isn't it? That first day hype, those flashy numbers, they don't always signal solid long-term value, at least according to some analysts.
Right.
It forces you to ask why. Why the caution despite the strong start? It's about getting that context, the expert view presented in the source, not just reacting to the headline number.
Definitely need that critical lens, especially in markets that can move so fast on hype.
And what's interesting is seeing these different kinds of stories side by side in the sources you gave us. We go from, Fartcoin and stock warnings to something completely different. A partnership.
Okay, what partnership?
Between entities called Legendary Humanity and Hashkey Group's Aeon, based in Singapore. The source says was announced June 5th, reported on the 6th.
Legendary Humanity and Hashkey Group. And what's the reported focus of this collaboration?
The source states it's about advancing AI-driven digital fashion.
AI-driven digital fashion. Okay, so this isn't just pure finance anymore, is it?
Not at all.
This detail really shows how crypto and blockchain stuff is intersecting with other cutting-edge areas, like AI and fashion.
Yeah, and it raises that question about, where else blockchain tech is going. This source highlighting the partnership suggests applications are really diversifying, moving into creative fields, consumer stuff.
Building new kinds of digital things, experiences.
Exactly, all potentially running on blockchain infrastructure.
Okay, now let's touch on something from the sources that seems, well, totally outside crypto and tech, but is reported to have had a big market impact.
Ah, you mean the report about President Trump and Elon Musk?
Yes. One source details some kind of altercation between them on a Thursday evening.
That's right. And the source explicitly claims this event reportedly caused political unrest. And Crucially for us looking at these market reports, it supposedly sent markets into what the source describes as a bloodbath.
A bloodbath.
Yeah.
Oh.
And the source also adds a detail that White House aides reportedly asked Trump to sort of tone things down afterwards.
Okay, so just to be clear, according to this specific source, a reported public spat between these two very high-profile figures is linked directly to a major negative market reaction.
That's what the source claims.
We're just reporting what's in the material you provided, staying neutral here, but it's presented as a stark example of how seemingly unrelated events originating outside finance could, according to these reports, ripple through the markets quite severely.
It certainly suggests, based on that source's viewpoint, a high degree of market sensitivity to the words and actions of, well, very influential people. The source draws a direct line.
Okay. Shifting gears back to more specific market analysis from the sources, there's a report on Compound, COMP. It mentions a technical point that COMP apparently broke above a trend line it had been following for months.
Yeah, according to the source, that technical break is seen as pretty significant. It suggests, maybe a change in the trend for the token's price.
And did the source give specifics on performance?
It did. It reportedly rose 14.7% in just 24 hours.
Yeah.
And broke through its resistance level, though the source doesn't specify where that resistance was.
Okay.
And the article specifically notes that based on this move, it eyes $61 target.
Right, so nearly 15% in a day is big. But the source adding that context, breaking a long-term trend line, pushing past resistance, analysts setting a target like $61, that gives you a much clearer idea of why that move was considered important in this analysis.
It's using those technical signals from the source to maybe project where it could go next.
It shows how chart patterns and price levels, as analyzed in the source, get interpreted as signals, right? Potential momentum shifts, forecasts. It's one way people look at the market.
Definitely. It's that technical analysis perspective.
We also saw another listing event mentioned in the sources. This time it's Binance and a token called Skate.
Ah, yes, Skate.
But there's a really standout detail highlighted about this one too, isn't there?
There is, yeah. The source points out something pretty unusual. The price of Skate reportedly shot up by 33% before it actually started trading on Binance Alpha and Binance Futures.
Hold on, before the launch.
That's what the source says.
Normally you'd expect the big splash when trading goes live, right? When the new buyers can actually get in. Why would it jump so much beforehand?
Well, it really hammers home that point we talked about with the Coinbase, but maybe even more strongly. It just highlights the intense anticipation, the demand that can build up just from the news of a major listing.
Right.
The source does briefly describe Skate as powering some multi-VM blockchain infrastructure, so there's maybe some underlying interest there too. But that pre-launch surge is the really remarkable detail provided. It shows the perceived power of future access.
Tells you a lot about market psychology, speculation around these big listing announcements.
For sure. And finally, let's not forget a more sort of foundational event mentioned in the sources, a big milestone for Bitcoin itself.
Right. One article points out Bitcoin hit a historic milestone on this day, June 6th. What was that, according to the source?
That milestone was the mining of block 900,000.
900,000. Okay.
Yeah. And the source gives some specific data points about that block, too. It reportedly included 1,562 transactions.
Yeah.
And had an average fee rate of around 3 Satoshis per virtual byte. So 3 Sat VB.
Block 900,000. That's not just some abstract number, is it? It's like a real tangible step in Bitcoin's ongoing history, a clear marker.
Exactly.
And using those specific numbers from the source, the transaction count, the average fee for that block, it gives you a tiny concrete snapshot of the network activity right at that moment. It's a piece of the bigger Bitcoin story.
It's a good reminder, isn't it, that underneath all the headlines about new tokens, price swings, partnerships, the basic infrastructure of Bitcoin just keeps, ticking along, block by block, programmatically, carrying actual economic activity.
So when you put it all together, everything we've pulled from these sources about just one day, June 6th, 2025, you've got tokens with, let's say, memorable names hitting major roadmaps and surging.
Right. You've got a big crypto company stock debuting high but getting analyst warning.
Industry partnerships in AI fashion.
Reports linking political figures to market downturns.
Specific coins having technical breakouts.
Other tokens surging before they even list.
And Bitcoin quietly hitting a major operational milestone, block 900K.
It really paints a picture of a diverse incredibly fast-paced and interconnected world, at least as covered by these particular reports.
It definitely shows why looking at a whole range of information together is valuable.
Right.
Even if the sources cover wildly different things, seeing them side by side, like you've provided here, helps sketch out that bigger landscape.
Yeah, even when it feels like news is flying at you from every possible angle, it highlights how interconnected things can be, how ripples can spread in ways you might not expect, according to these reports.
So maybe a final thought for you to consider based on all the source material.
Mm-hmm.
Think about that sheer variety and speed. We literally went from discussing a token possibly named after, well, bodily functions potentially getting listed, all the way to Bitcoin reaching a very specific technical block number representing years of operation. And then you have reports tying major political figures to market stability. What does this rapid, sometimes bizarre, often unexpected flow of news, as captured just in these sources from one day, tell you about the actual nature of this whole space?
And maybe, what does it mean for the challenge or perhaps the unique opportunity of actually trying to stay properly informed about it all?